Back at the very start, 7 big personality types from the world turned into gods, and formed the Endless in DC Comics. Each of them governs a different realm, and maintains the order of the universe. Destiny is the eldest of the Endless, holding the Book of Destiny and knowing all things past, present, and future. Death, as the name suggests, symbolizes the end of life and the afterlife. Besides these, there are also desire, despair, delirium, and destruction, and the main character of our story is the third of the Endless, the Dream Lord.
If I'd known he was building a new palace, I wouldn't have spent so much time repairing the old one.
He governs human dreams and constructs people's inner fears and fantasies. On this day, the Endless hold a family meeting. Destiny, Death, and our leading role, Dream, arrived. First, then came Desire, Despair, and Delirium, the youngest daughter of the Endless. So far, 6 of the 7 members had gathered. With only one left, Destiny said that no matter where the other one was, his attitude towards this matter was clear. So it didn't matter whether he showed up or not. Destiny asked his brothers and sisters to take their seats. He explained that earlier that day, the 3 sisters had visited his garden. Their words were like oracles, vague and ambiguous. To put it bluntly, they were 3 riddlers.
Look in your book, and know this: a king will forsake his kingdom.
Life and death will clash and fray.
The oldest battle begins once more.
Destiny honestly checked his book and found that it clearly showed that something important would happen, and this meeting was the trigger. So Destiny summoned everyone here, because they had to be here at this time. Dream felt bored, and just wanted to hurry back to build his own kingdom, but everyone stopped him, saying that they hadn't gathered for centuries. It was just sitting down and chatting, which wouldn't take much time. Dream wasn't interested in family talks.
I can make you want one.
Careful, sibling.
Desire, as the name suggests, can arouse and manipulate people's desires. Dream had always disliked this younger brother, believing that his existence was to corrupt and interfere with others. The two soon had an argument. Delirium looked at the 7th empty seat, missing the absent one more, and more.
We never argued when he was here. Why didn't we ever try to find him?
Because he explicitly asked us not to.
Seeing that they were about to have another quarrel, Dream immediately left the table. He deeply missed his lover, Nada. She was the ruler of the first people. Nada was different from ordinary mortals. Her dreams weren't for herself, but for her people. Nada dreamed of a city without poverty, disease, or political strife, and strived to make it a reality. In short, she was the purest soul Dream had ever seen. So Dream couldn't help but go to see Nada. The two fell hopelessly in love. Every day, Nada sent guards to search for her beloved in the city. She even looked for him in her dreams. Finally, unable to bear the pain of longing, Dream appeared in Nada's dream. Only then did she realize that her lover was actually the Lord of the Dreaming. Mortals weren't capable of loving the Endless, for doing so would only bring disaster, but love was irresistible. The consequence of Nada's willfulness was disaster for her people. A meteorite from the sky reduced her city to ruins, and her people perished in the fire. Nada was willing to pay for her selfishness, to be cast into hell for this life and all future lives.
You would condemn yourself to an eternity of suffering, rather than accept an eternity of my love.
Dream gave Nada a choice: marry him and become a god of the Endless, or be cast into hell for all eternity. But it was obvious that Nada chose redemption. After hearing this story, Death didn't sympathize with her elder brother. He shouldn't have gotten involved with humans, nor should he have sentenced Nada to eternal hell. That girl should have had a third choice, to live her life well. Now, it had been 10,000 years since Nada was imprisoned. She had fulfilled her duty to her people. Upon hearing this, Dream suddenly realized, and was determined to go to hell to seek justice for Nada. Death panicked after hearing this. I didn't ask you to go to hell and cause trouble. I just hoped you would reflect on yourself and learn from your failed past.
If I have committed a wrong, I must make it right.
Not all wrongs can be.
Unluckily, once Dream had made up his mind, he wouldn't easily change it. He asked Death to inform the others that he had to leave, then set off for hell. This was precisely the major event that this meeting was meant to advance. At this time, he returned to his domain and handed over all affairs to Lucian. His lackeys were somewhat dissatisfied with their leader's decision. Is it worth risking the whole kingdom to save one soul? Dream said, don't try to persuade me anymore. I've already sent a messenger to find Lucifer. This messenger is none other than Cain, the son of Adam and Eve, whom we all know. Cain delivered the message that Dream was coming to hell. Lucifer was furious after hearing this, because Dream had publicly humiliated her during his last visit to hell. Lucifer swore to destroy him. Now that Dream was coming to his door, isn't this a good thing? On the other hand, before setting off, Dream went to say goodbye to his friends in their sleep, and Cain had already been sent back by Lucifer.
They're waiting for you. An army of demons. Millions of them. Go, my lord.
I beg you to reconsider.
As we all know, those who weren't stubborn enough can't be leading roles, so Dream still set off. There were countless gates leading to hell. Some entrances were heavily guarded, some gates were poorly guarded. As a member of the Endless, Dream had no choice but to take the palace gate. And Lucifer had already opened the gate and was waiting. Hell was eerily quiet. Lucifer soon appeared and asked Dream to take off his helmet. She promised, as long as we are in the realm of hell, I won't do anything to harm you. So Dream had to take off his helmet, but Lucifer said that she had already sent Nada away, including all demons, the cursed, and the unborn. She had taken them all away. Lucifer had been in this lousy place for tens of billions of years. She was already tired of working here. And when she heard that Dream was coming, her first thought was to take revenge. But then she thought, if Dream could leave his realm whenever he wanted, why couldn't she disband the demons and leave hell? Dream immediately realized the seriousness of the problem. Can the creatures of hell be disbanded just like that? Where have they all gone now? Lucifer said indifferently that they could be in heaven, the mortal world, the ghost realm, anywhere. Those souls in hell always say that their crimes in life were driven by demons, but I never ordered any of them to do anything. These people just expected me to satisfy their desires for pain and revenge.
But I'm done with all that. Hell is closed. I have sealed or raised all the gateways.
After Lucifer finished speaking, she closed the last gate, then begged Dream to cut off her wings. Once this was done, she wanted to find a beach, listen to music and take a vacation. Dream helped Lucifer gain freedom. Indiana return. She pointed out that Nada was beyond the wilderness. Then Lucifer gave the key to hell to Dream. After all, she had sworn to destroy him, and there was more than one way to destroy someone. Hell was the dark reflection of heaven, so its ruler possessed immense power, surpassing any entity in other realms. Even if this key couldn't destroy Dream, it would never let him live in ease. This was Lucifer's revenge on Dream. Now all demons and cursed beings had been set free. Soon, all gods and creators would appear at Dream door in anger. He must first talk to Death, his sister told Dream, you have two choices now. Either take the key Lucifer gave you and rule hell yourself, or give the key to someone else. But hell needed a responsible ruler, and Dream's top choice in his heart was Death. But his sister wasn't stupid. Recently, Death had been so busy bringing back the deceased that she was exhausted. She would never take on the mess that is hell. No sooner had the words been spoken than Thor, the god of thunder, arrived with a large group of gods. Dream instructed Lucian to open the door and welcome the guests. For them, these people were more dangerous as enemies than as guests, so Dream planned to hold a noble banquet. Perhaps he could find someone among this group who could take over hell. After the door opened, a crowd filed in. Lucian stood at the door to handle registration, listening to them report their names. They were mostly familiar faces. There was Odin, the Allfather of the Aesir. He also brought his sons Thor of the Aesir, and Loki the Jotun giant. There were also the Princess of Chaos and the sons of Izanagi. Even the former commander of Lucifer's demon army came to the heart of the dreaming for the key to hell. Dream straightforwardly announced, hell is temporarily mine, but I will respect and assess each of your claims to this territory, then I will decide who to give the key to. Later, Kruller and Nuala, ambassadors from the fairy court, arrived late. Before attending the banquet, the two delivered a message from the king and queen. According to an ancient treaty, Fairy must pay a tithe to hell. 9 citizens of Fairy, once every 7 years. The king and queen hope that Dream won't grant anyone else the right to rule hell. If hell is empty, it will be greatly beneficial to Fairy, for then they won't have to pay the tax. Dream said he would make a decision after talking to everyone. Kruller, having only delivered the message, couldn't wait to enter the banquet. He wasn't interested in the kingdom's official affairs. The cook called a handsome young man over to serve.
May I show you to your table?
You may show me anything you like.
Dream didn't join the table, for once he appeared, everyone would behave properly, so it was better to observe from the shadows. Lucian thought Lord Odin wasn't bad, he had wisdom and experience in ruling hell, but Dream thought Odin was too eager. Otherwise he wouldn't have released Loki from the prison in the underworld. Loki was too cunning and malicious to be set free, and Odin had brought Loki here, simply to have the master of deception lend him a hand. But he forgot that no one could deceive Dream within his realm, so Loki advised Odin to negotiate with Dream and bribe the host. But the question was, what chips did they have to offer a god who had everything? No sooner had the words been spoken than Thor, son of Odin, began flirting around, making inappropriate insinuations. In the end, he provoked the she-demon Spider-Woman into action. These people were like firecrackers that could ignite at the slightest spark. And it wasn't long before they were about to fight. In the end, Dream couldn't stand by and intervened. Within his realm, even the power of the god of thunder couldn't run amok. At this time, 2 angels, Remiel and Duma, arrived. They had come to oversee the banquet, for hell and its ruler were of great importance to the creator. They were now watching the gathering with interest, waiting for Dream to make a decision. The dinner was drawing to a close when Cain, transformed into a master magician, brought a performance to everyone. Taramus, the head chef in charge of the cuisine, couldn't help but ask the boss if angels ate. Dream explained that they neither ate nor slept, and were the eyes, hands, feet, and mouthpieces of the Creator.
God has no idea what to do with hell, or they'd have taken the key from you straight away. They are only here because they know you will make the right decision.
Just then, Childermus, the embodiment of order, sent a servant to pass a message. For many years, the Lords of Order have been collecting the dream essence of the newly deceased. My master, whose hands are skilled, is willing to offer you. The servant was interrupted by Dream before finishing his words. Why would I, the great king of dreams, be interested in the dream essence of mortal deceased? If I really need it, I will get it myself. There's no need to trouble your master. Having just seen off one servant, the Princess of Chaos immediately approached. She didn't want to bribe Dream. Instead, she wanted to threaten him to hand over the key. Otherwise, the army of chaos would pour out in full force, take Dream life, and continue until the end of time. Naturally, Dream wasn't afraid of threats. At the same time, the Spider-Woman drew near. Duke Colossan of the 8th Circle of Hell said, that Lord Azazel has prepared a gift for you. Please come to my room to get it later. Azazel, whom the Spider-Woman spoke of, was the aforementioned Prince of Hell, the former commander of Lucifer's demon army. When the magic show reached its exciting part, Azazel couldn't wait to follow the Spider-Woman into the inner room and put his hand under her clothes. Countless spiders crawled from his fingertips onto Colossan's body, and soon wrapped him up in spider webs. The Spider-Woman said with glee, one of the gifts Lord Azazel intends to present to Dream is you. Duke Colossan, Susanoo no Makoto, son of Izanagi, called out to him. This person was in charge of storms. In his youth, he had a very fiery temper, and hurt many family members and friends around him. So his father exiled him to Ninokuni, the land of the dead. And it was there that Susanoo learned that the land of the dead could also be a place to take root. In another sense, death was also a kind of rebirth. He hoped to pass on this insight to all the dead. So he came to fight for the key to hell. Dream didn't give a direct answer, only saying that he would give the matter the most careful consideration. Finally, Odin couldn't hold back and came to talk to Dream. He said bluntly, I can give you what you want, and tell you the whereabouts of your missing brother. Dream asked Odin in return, why do you want to rule hell? The latter confessed truthfully, naturally, to prevent Ragnarok from coming, which will completely end my subjects. Dream didn't understand how ruling hell could prevent Ragnarok. Odin replied, the Aesir live in Asgard, the giants in Jotunheim, and the dark elves in Svartalfheim. We are all competing for territory, because none of us have anywhere else to go. With the key to hell, Odin will have an extra piece of territory to settle his people. In short, he hoped that Dream would carefully consider his suggestion. At the same time, Cain put his brother into a meat grinder, and the magic trick of turning him into sausages finally came to an end. Dream walked onto the stage and announced that tonight's entertainment was over. He would announce who the key to hell would finally belong to the next day. After Dream finished speaking, he left the hall. Lucian stepped forward and asked his master if he had a suitable candidate in mind. Dream said that he had indeed selected 2 candidates. Lucian had to tell his master that Lord Azazel had requested a private meeting with him before that. Logically speaking, Azazel did have a position to ask for the key, because most demons now followed his command, and hell was originally their territory. Azazel said very thoughtfully, I will compensate for the inconvenience Lucifer has caused you.
How?
Azazel presented Colossan, bluntly saying that Dream could take revenge on him, for Colossan had challenged Dream in hell. Dream retorted, what if I have no intention of revenge? Azazel replied, I can also give you another gift. As soon as the words were spoken, it spat out half a human figure wrapped in a membrane. Dream recognized that it was Nada. Azazel tore Colossan to pieces, saying bluntly that if he didn't get the key, Nada would end up like Colossan. Dream didn't agree to Azazel on the spot, only saying he would give them a reply tomorrow. Then he waved his hand to dismiss him. Lucian thought it would be better to give the key to Azazel. Hell was his hometown, and giving him the key could also bring Nada's freedom. But Dream knew very well that Azazel would never be satisfied with ruling hell. He would use hell as a base to launch invasions and conquer every realm. Moreover, Dream would never accept blackmail. Late at night, Nuala couldn't sleep because of the noise from next door, so she went out for a walk. Unexpectedly, she met Dream, who was also not resting. The two talked about where the key would end up. Nuala admired Dream very much, and thought he would definitely give the best answer. It said that Dream was once a frequent visitor to Fairy. Unluckily, later his friendship with Queen Titania broke down, and their relationship became very tense, so much so that the residents of Fairy were forbidden to mention Morpheus, Dream, until one day, Dream did something significant to bridge the rift between the two. Worlds, it was on June 23, 1593, in the Sussex Downs, England. Dream invited the literary giant Shakespeare, and built a stage on Wendover Hill, to invite the fairy king and queen, from the other side of the mountain to watch the performance. At that time, Nuala and her brother were also among the invited. Shakespeare wrote a wonderful play based on King Oberon and Queen Titania, making their names and stories remembered by mortals. This approach won back the hearts of friends, and made the two worlds reconcile again. Nowadays, the legends of Oberon and Titania still circulated in the waking world, and Nuala always remembered what Dream said at that time. Dreams and legends are shadows of the truth, and they last longer. Even if the facts themselves turn to dust and are forgotten, dreams and legends will continue to exist.
You held a mirror up to my king and queen and showed them that they were the problem, not you. It is time to hold a mirror up to those who would impose hell upon you.
These words really inspired Dream. The next day, he gathered everyone to announce the result, saying, "Hell is the reflection of heaven, they define each other. Without hell, heaven has no meaning. Therefore, Dream is obligated to entrust it to those who perform their duties in the name of heaven."
Remil, Duma, the key is yours.
Azazel got angry as soon as he heard it. "After all this intrigue all night, you actually gave the key to people from heaven." He immediately showed his true form, trying to devour Nada's soul on the spot. Dream immediately grabbed Nada's hand, and pulled his beloved woman out. Unwilling to give up, Azazel swallowed Dream in one bite. "If I can't get hell, seizing the dreaming isn't a bad alternative." But the space flipped in an instant. In the blink of an eye, Azazel was trapped in Dream's bottle. He didn't even think that in the dreaming, all beings were subject to the will of Dream. This was his domain of authority. With Azazel as a warning, the others would certainly not question Dream's decision anymore. Now that things had come to this, everyone had to go back to their respective homes, and it was only when the well-fed and well-drunk Cruller remembered that the queen intended to give Nuala to Dream as a gift, and the other person wasn't allowed to refuse. If Nuala returned to Fairy, she might face the queen's great displeasure. Dream had no choice but to accept this gift. Nuala, realizing that she was being treated as an object for exchange, was completely disappointed with the queen and her brother. Rather than going back to Fairy where she wasn't respected, she would rather stay by Dream's side. Everyone warmly welcomed this beautiful guest to stay, but Taremus had to remind his master that there might be other guests still lingering here. Susanoo sneakily took off his clogs. Dream instantly saw through the disguise, and made Susanoo show his true form. That's right, he was actually transformed by Loki, the master of deception. Because of the failure of this operation, Odin would definitely lock him back in the dungeon, so Loki used a little trick to exchange appearances with Susanoo. The Loki who was tied back by Thor was the real Lord Susanoo. Dream wouldn't let his guest take the blame for Loki. For no reason, he could create a dream image to take Loki's place in enduring the pain of the underworld and then rescue Lord Susanoo. Loki knew that Dream wasn't so kind to help him, so he wanted to ask what the other person wanted. Dream said, "I haven't thought of it yet, just consider that you owe me a favor." The two reached an agreement on this. As for Nada, although she regained consciousness, but her love for Dream had long been exhausted. In the 10,000 years of purgatory, she had no intention of staying by Dream's side, and soon went to the mortal world alone. The enraged Dream ordered the suite built for Nada to be razed to the ground, and forbade anyone from mentioning her name. Just then, Matthew the Raven came to report that Delirium had paid an unexpected visit. Her visit this time was still about their missing brother, Destruction. Although Destruction was gone, his realm remained, and things were still being destroyed, yet no one was in control. When Dream was captured in the previous season, the dreaming was similarly thrown into chaos, so Delirium wanted to find Destruction, even if it was just to confront him and ask why he had abandoned his responsibilities and left. Delirium simply wanted to see him, so she begged Dream to help her. Before this, Delirium had already approached all her brothers and sisters, but was rejected without exception. Dream thought Delirium wouldn't suddenly think of this for no reason, so he went to the gallery to summon Desire. He wanted to find out if Desire was instigating things behind the scenes. Desire said helplessly, "It's true that I can interfere with what's in people's hearts, but both your 10,000-year broken heart and Delirium's obsession with her brother are your own issues. Can you not blame everything on me?" Dream declared that he wouldn't go looking for that brother who had betrayed the family. Desire breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing this. To be honest, he had been worried that Dream would use Delirium's desire to find their brother as an excuse to go to the mortal world in search of Nada. After Desire finished speaking, Dream immediately agreed to go with his sister. Didn't Lucian understand his master's thoughts? He must have wanted to take this opportunity to go out and find Nada. Meanwhile, Destruction was living a leisurely life.
What do you think of it so far?
The perspective shot to hell, the colours could have been better chosen.
Well, how do you know the colours are off? I thought dogs were colourblind.
Looking at that painting, I thought you were.
As soon as the words were spoken, the divination pool in the room began to spin continuously, which meant that big trouble was imminent. At the same time, Dream and Delirium had arrived in the waking world, which is what we know as the human world. The two planned to meet someone named Pharamond, who used to be a god, but his offerings dwindled and his temple was abandoned. Pharamond had to find another way to make a living. Now he oversaw transportation in the human world. The two soon arrived at a travel agency that offers luxury car services, and a female secretary named Wanda came out to greet them. Pharamond had told his secretary that Dream and his companion were members of a royal family, and that they had come to the US to visit a friend of their brother, so the secretary was to provide them with security and handle Dream concierge services in the US. Wanda carefully selected a classic car that was considered yet luxurious and sophisticated as their means of transportation. Delirium, on the other hand, had a list of all Destruction's living friends. The first person they were going to visit was one of the oldest mortals in the world. Dream explained that there were only 60 people left on Earth who had first-hand memories of mammoths and saber-toothed tigers, and Bernard Capax was one of them. He was a busy lawyer. At this point, Bernard was talking on the phone while passing through a construction zone, when the scaffolding above him suddenly collapsed and crushed him to death. Death immediately appeared to collect the soul, although Bernard felt unwilling. As a mortal he had lived for 12,000 years, and it was time to meet death with equanimity. Upon learning of Bernard's death, Delirium crossed out the first name on the list, and prepared to go find the second person. This time, the person they were going to meet was both a dancer and a god, so Delirium was confident. Gods weren't humans and do not die so easily. Hearing this, Dream had to remind his sister that Bernard's accidental death shortly after their arrival meant that someone wanted to stop them from continuing their search. Moreover, gods could be easily killed if people stopped believing in them. The reason this god had taken the form of a dancer and worked in a strip club was that she presided over love and desire between men and women. At this point, the dancer, Belle, was dancing passionately on stage, boldly showing off her hot figure. Dream followed her into the backstage. Their first meeting hadn't been pleasant. Dream had once advised Destruction that Belle wasn't worthy of him, thus ruining their relationship. Belle hadn't seen Destruction since then, which was almost a few centuries ago. Dream, seeing that Belle wasn't speaking, reminded her to be careful. After all, the last person who was close to Destruction had died inexplicably. Delirium thought it was a coincidence, but Dream thought that Destruction had killed Bernard. Upon hearing this, Belle removed her jewelry. People outside had never seen her true dance. The last time Belle danced, there were several temples built in her name, each with 50 priestesses. Unluckily, that glory was now gone. If tonight was destined to be her last night, Belle would die as a goddess. She changed her clothes and stood on the stage, while the wind blew the curtains and completely ignited the candles. The goddess's dance enchanted the mortals in the club, leaving everyone present dazzled and fascinated. Even as the fire spread to the stage, and gas leaked from the pipes, no one screamed or ran away. Seeing that the flames were about to engulf Belle, Dream quickly roused his sister and Wanda. Unluckily, an explosion soon occurred, and all the mortals present, including Wanda, were burned to death in the fire. Now only the last person remained on the list. If Delirium insisted on finding him, death would surely follow, and it was time to end this search. As soon as the words were spoken, Desire came to accuse him. I clearly warned you not to look for Destruction, but you chose to ignore my warning, so the tragic death of these innocent people is all your fault. Delirium quickly explained that it wasn't Dream's fault, he was just helping her. Desire mocked his sister for being too naive. Dream only agreed to come to the waking world with you, to look for Nada. He has no desire to find our brother at all.
Dream must think I'm very stupid.
Dream wasn't thinking of you at all.
You never liked me.
Delirium somewhat understood why Destruction wanted to stay away from these people, and now she didn't want to get close to these so-called family members either. The next day, Dream went back to the dreaming. He asked Lucian to investigate whether it was really Destruction who killed Bernard, Wanda, and the others. Lucian couldn't help but add that she thought Destruction was a good person, and suggested that Dream might as well talk to this younger brother and ask why he left. Lucian's words made Dream recall that Destruction had actually tried to pour out his heart to him, but he hadn't listened at all back then. In London, England, 1675, he was invited by Destruction to Arundel House to watch humans dissect an ape. Unlike Destruction, Dream wasn't curious about mortal life, but Destruction was full of interest in the world. Recently, a member of the Royal Society refracted the sun's rays into beams of different colors, but Mr. Newton, who inspired the rainbow experiment, had much more to say on the topic of optics. He believed that light and matter might be convertible into each other. This deeply touched Destruction. He had lived for far too long and knew well that certain ideas would become inevitable over time. Take the atom, as the Greeks called it. they would always find a way to split the indivisible atom, using it to kill each other and destroy themselves, and light and matter could indeed be converted, and the energy released thereby would melt human flesh and bones, and destroy their cities, as humans continue to progress and master more and more dangerous theories. The world would usher in an age of destruction, an age of fire and flame. Perhaps it was this terrifying discovery that made Destruction choose to leave everyone behind, for he didn't want to be responsible for humanity's destruction, nor did he want to bring destruction upon those he loved. This memory weighed heavily on Dream, and he decided to attend Wanda's funeral. This girl had experienced gender dysphoria since her teens, and had undergone hormone therapy despite her family's opposition. Because of her bold decision to transition, she was rejected by her devoutly religious family. Wanda had said in her lifetime that she had been waiting for her parents to accept her, but at the funeral, Dream learned from Wanda's aunt that the Undertaker, following the deceased's parents' instructions, had cut Wanda's hair short and dressed her in a male suit. Because this funeral wasn't held for Wanda, but to atone to God, Wanda's family firmly believed that the accident was God's punishment for their son's transition.
Wanda? Happy?
She was entirely herself, at all times.
How many of us can say that?
Death was never absent from a funeral. She knew Dream felt guilty, but for now, it was better to focus on those who were still alive. I wonder if you've noticed that Delirium's sigil has dimmed, and she's closed her realm. After saying that, Death picked up a stone, smashed open Delirium's realm, and told Dream to go in and talk to her. Delirium's realm was in utter chaos, filled with illusions everywhere. After all, the word delirium itself meant a state of mental confusion. At this point, Dream had a hallucination about Nada, and just as he was about to be ensnared, he suddenly caught a glimpse of Delirium. Dream hurriedly broke free from the illusion and chased after her. He found his sister near a sundial and sincerely apologized. To show his sincerity, Dream was willing to accompany her again, to continue searching for the missing Destruction. The innocent Delirium was soon mollified by her elder brother, but this time they didn't plan to go to the people on the list. To avoid bringing misfortune to them, since destruction was a family matter, they should ask for family help. Dream planned to talk to their eldest brother, Destiny. No matter whether the god of destiny was willing to lend a hand or not, the words he spoke would always reveal a bit of the divine truth. The two soon arrived at Destiny's realm. Talking to this god is very easy, because before you even open your mouth, Destiny already knows why you've come. He wouldn't reveal where Destruction was, but he could tell Dream that if you want to find our brother, you need a prophet, and the Endless family did have a prophet.
My son.
In 1700 BC, Greece, Orpheus, the son of Dream, was about to hold a wedding with the woman he admired, but he lay on the seashore and had a nightmare, dreaming that his fiancée Eurydice drowned tragically. Filled with fear and anxiety, he asked his father if he could reveal the meaning of this dream. After all, his father was Dream, but Dream couldn't interfere with his son's dream, and just told him not to overthink. Weddings were rare among the Endless, so several of Dream's siblings attended to offer their congratulations. Only Destiny stood there in silence. After all, the god of destiny never offers wishes, he merely observes, for what is meant to happen will surely happen. The new couple was united in marriage. With the blessing of the priestess, everyone danced wildly in the courtyard. The gods of the Endless had long since taken their leave, except for Death, who lingered.
I also have things to do, brother.
At this point, Eurydice took Orpheus' hand and invited her husband to dance with her, but Orpheus, like his father, was clumsy at dancing and didn't want to embarrass himself in front of others. Upon hearing this, Eurydice simply pulled him to a secluded forest clearing, away from the crowd, to dance under the moonlight. Unexpectedly, a venomous snake bit Eurydice. Orpheus quickly rushed to his wife's side. He caught sight of his aunt approaching, quickly asked her to look after Eurydice, and ran back to call for help. Poor Orpheus, in his urgency, had forgotten that this aunt was the god of death, and she had come only to take Eurydice's soul away. His wife died a tragic death on their wedding day, and Orpheus could hardly bear the grief. He begged his father to plead with Hades, the lord of the underworld, saying he was even willing to trade his own life for Eurydice's, but Dream would never allow his son's life to be traded, so he refused Orpheus' request.
If you will not do this for me, then I am no longer your son.
Grief-stricken Orpheus was bent on death, but luckily, Destruction stopped him in time. He told his nephew, "Your father does care about you, just in a rather special way. Since you're so reluctant to part with Eurydice, why not go talk to Death? She can do as she pleases, but there will always be conditions." After saying that, Destruction stretched out his hand toward the boulder opposite, and tore open Death's realm. With flames, Orpheus mustered up the courage to walk in, and found it surprisingly peaceful and serene. It turned out that Destruction was right. Death could indeed do as she pleased. She could allow Orpheus to go into and leave the underworld freely, but on the condition that from then on, Orpheus would never die. It sounded like a blessing, but over time, it would prove to be no good. But Orpheus was resolute. He accepted Death's blessing, and asked his aunt to open the gates of the underworld for him. The young boy went to a place he should never have set foot in to save his lover. Hades, the lord of the underworld, and Persephone, the queen of the underworld, were seated high at either end of the stone tower. Orpheus was a minstrel and balladeer. He sang a love ode to the underworld king and queen, telling through his song how Eurydice died tragically, and his own feelings of overwhelming grief and longing to bring her back. Orpheus' song lit up the dark underworld, even making the Furies shed tears. Hades finally agreed to give him a chance, saying there was a path leading to the world above. As long as he followed that path, Eurydice would follow him like a shadow, but he must remember not to look back for her or speak to her during the whole journey. Only when sunlight shines on both of them would Eurydice go back to him. As soon as he finished speaking, a path appeared before them. Orpheus walked straight ahead with his head down, but as he was about to step into the light, he couldn't help but look back, losing his lover at the last second. After leaving the underworld, Orpheus was disheartened and deliberately lured the Maenads. It was said that these crazy followers of Dionysus would traverse forests and fields at night, tearing to pieces everything they met with. The Maenads did pounce on Orpheus, tore off his head, and threw it off a cliff, but even then, Orpheus couldn't die. Dream walked over to his son's severed head and told him, "I have contacted the priestesses. They will find you and take care of you. I will never come to see you again." Orpheus begged his father to kill him, but Dream could only turn a deaf ear and leave the scene. Now, Delirium came back after a walk and saw Dream looking listless. She could tell it was Destiny's doing.
Do you know why I stopped being Delight, my brother? You see, there are things not in your book.
After Delirium finished speaking, she followed Dream, who was already ready to find Orpheus. In exchange, Dream could grant his wish and personally end Orpheus' immortality. Before that, we should also talk about what happened to that severed head later. In 1794, Orpheus' head was stolen from the island. Dream came to a Baroness room and asked her to send the severed head back to the island. Late at night, Baroness Johanna hurried through the streets of Paris with Orpheus' head, but was stopped by two soldiers with guns. They insisted on checking Johanna's package, so she had to hold out the severed head and lied. "This noble beast violated my sister, so I persuaded the executioner to give me his head, to take home an account to my mother." Johanna said this while spitting on Orpheus' face. The two soldiers believed her, but one of them suddenly stepped forward and tore off Orpheus' valuable earring. Johanna took the head back to her residence and cleaned Orpheus' head with water. Unluckily, his torn ear wouldn't grow back, otherwise, Orpheus' body would have long since regrown completely. From their conversation, it's known that Johanna is a baroness of the Constantine family, a noble lady in Republican France. If caught, she would be sent to Robespierre's guillotine. The Robespierre mentioned here is a statesman during the French Revolution, the highest leader of the Jacobin dictatorship. Orpheus and Johanna shared the same misfortune. As a prophetic, talking human head, he also offended Robespierre, and was locked in a dungeon as an ominous object. Thanks to Johanna's timely appearance, Orpheus was able to see the light again. Of course, he quickly guessed that this baroness was most likely a rescuer sent by his father. Johanna said that although they had just escaped, the two soldiers had probably told their superiors about them, and the news would spread soon. Sure enough, early the next morning, Robespierre led people to break in, to find the stolen head from the dungeon. Because Johanna refused to reveal its whereabouts, she was imprisoned in the Luxembourg Palace. That night, she saw Dream in her dream. Johanna reminded him, "If you don't help soon, both your son's head and mine will be lost." Although Dream didn't clearly propose a solution, he reminded Johanna, "In the place where you hid Orpheus, can he sing? If you have heard Orpheus singing, you will understand what I mean." The next day, Robespierre opened the cell door triumphantly, saying he had guessed where the head was hidden. Just as people hide books in libraries and flowers in gardens, Johanna hid Orpheus' head among a pile of other severed heads, mixed in with the bodies that hadn't yet been thrown into the lime pit. Now Robespierre took Johanna to the pile of heads and told her to find Orpheus' head. Johanna did as she was told and picked out Orpheus, who was playing dead, from the pile of heads.
Now must I, Orpheus, sing to them.
Orpheus sang of freedom and liberation. It was a song full of power. It cast a spell over the listeners, and even Robespierre and his men stood transfixed, listening like statues. The song of freedom spread to every corner of France, bringing an end to Robespierre's reign of terror. Following Dream instructions, Johanna took Orpheus to an unnamed island off the Greek coast, and returned the head to the temple at the highest point. There, Orpheus and the priests guarding him would hide beneath the clouds, away from the mortal world. Now, Dream and Delirium arrived at that Greek island. Delirium looked at her brother's back and quickly chased after him. She didn't want to see Dream kill his own son, so she wanted to give up searching for destruction. As soon as she finished speaking, 3 people came out. Upon hearing that Dream was the prophet's father, they quickly made way. Orpheus didn't resent his father. It was his own willfulness that had led to the current situation. And what's more, his father had always sent people to take care of him. The father and son talked for a long time, and Orpheus told Dream where destruction was. Destruction was hiding on the island that stood in distant view of the temple. Destruction really knew Dream well, he'd probably hid here because he knew full well that Dream wouldn't dare to approach Orpheus. Delirium happily threw herself into her brother's arms. As soon as she saw him, Destruction invited them to eat together and explained that the deaths of Belle and others were really unintentional. When Destruction left that day, he set up a special wishing well that would prevent outsiders from finding him. He never thought it would harm those innocent people. Dream asked Destruction to explain in person why he had abandoned everything and left, and whether he would go back with them. Destruction refused without hesitation. Even if he wasn't in his own realm, people and things still existed and were still destroyed. They could create destruction on their own. This is not my responsibility, nor is it my fault. Destruction had decided to leave this island and go to a place where no one could find him. Delirium begged Destruction not to abandon her again. Dream had his own birds and servants, but Delirium was all alone. Upon hearing this, Destruction approached the talking old dog and asked if he was willing to leave with Delirium.
Can't I go with you?
You would not survive in the places I'm traveling to, friend.
I see.
Finally, Destruction told Dream, I left out of love for humanity, for this world. You must remember that no matter what you do, love is the only justifiable reason. In the end, the three bid farewell under the moonlight, and Destruction gradually vanished into the sky. Luckily, this trip wasn't in vain. They no longer needed to ask why Destruction left, nor whether he would come back. Dream gained some advice. Delirium also got a little dog. Now they should go back to the temple to repay Orpheus for guiding them. The latter had begged the gods for thousands of years, and finally, he could obtain his final peace at his father's hands.
Our journey is at an end. All debts are paid.
Dream said goodbye to his sister and went back to his realm. After assigning today's work, he ran into the room and scrubbed the bloodstains on his hands frantically. Yet according to ancient laws, the goddesses in charge of vengeance, also known as the furies, would put an end to those who killed their own blood relatives. Dream didn't care about losing his life, but he still had to take care of the people in his realm, and couldn't die leaving this mess behind. So he sought advice from his elder brother, Destiny, but the Book of Destiny was blank, and offered no guidance for him. Dream had to fight for a chance on his own, so he took gifts to visit the furies. The reason why the furies punished those who killed their blood relatives was that there were always people who prayed to them for revenge over blood feuds, but Dream ended his son's life following the latter's own arrangement. He didn't think anyone would pray to the furies for Orpheus' death. The three goddesses wore enigmatic smiles and advised Dream not to be too confident. Those who commit crimes will surely be retaliated against. There's no escaping it in the human world. The female host of a British news program got today's script. She glanced at the headline and found that the content was actually Pope encourages women to become clergymen. This was truly a once-in-a-century event. At this point, Dream came before the Pope and asked to talk to him.
Greetings, Puck. Loki.
What gave us away?
These two frauds had actually gotten mixed up together. No wonder such a decree was issued. The real Pope was sprinkled with fairy dust, and was now in a coma. Earlier, Dream rescued Loki from Odin's prison. Now it was the other person's turn to repay this favor. Dream told Puck to step aside. He wanted to talk to Loki alone. The director didn't reveal the content of their conversation. All we know is that Loki was very angry after hearing it. Puck comforted him, saying, "You can compliantly do what Dream says, but don't wait until he tells you to act. Just do it now and get it over with. Give him whatever he wants, but do it when he least expects it. This way, you fulfill your obligation, and to some extent, bring more trouble to Dream." Loki liked this suggestion very much and immediately set to work. On the other side, the employees in the Dreaming knew that their master was being targeted by the Furies. Nuala was once a deputy leader in the army. When she was in Fairy, she offered to lead the new army of the Dreaming to fight against the Furies. Just as the group was having a heated discussion, Dream said they didn't need to do anything, because he had already chosen a successor. The person was named Daniel, the son of Lyta and Hector, and the first baby conceived in the Dreaming. Lucian couldn't help but remind her master, "Daniel is only 8 months old now. I'm afraid he can hardly bear the heavy responsibility of being the Lord of the Dreaming." Dream explained, "I won't die so soon. Moreover, sooner or later, Daniel will possess far greater power and insight than me. He will become the new Dream of the Endless." At this point, Daniel follows Miss Lyta to the property left by his great-grandmother. This place was originally a nursing home, and now it was about to become their new home. The manager Maguire introduced the house and the staff to the two. There was a housekeeper, a cook, and a footman here. The three of them didn't know that the footman Simon had been replaced by Puck. Lyta planned to dine in central London tonight, so she left Daniel in the care of Mrs. Shore, the housekeeper. Puck looked at the baby, wondering what he was up to. At this point, in the dreaming, Nuala wanted to know who made the law, that killing one's kin must be punished by death. Couldn't they go to that person and explain the situation? But these laws were too ancient, and Dream didn't know who formulated them either. But there were indeed some divine forces that stood above the endless. For example, there was the god of night before the beginning. Night had no boundaries and was endless. In addition, the father of the endless time was also a deity who existed from the very beginning. Although Dream planned to seek help from his father, this god of time was very cold-blooded. In his eyes, children were a burden of love they only took and were unwilling to give. Dream was willing to risk his life to help Orpheus, because he loved his son, but unluckily, time didn't love Dream, so he was unwilling to help. Dream had long expected this. He also came to say goodbye. After seeing his father, Dream went to see his mother, but his mother was even colder. Her son was about to die, yet she showed no sign of concern. No wonder Dream was like a walking iceberg. It turned out he never received love from his parents. On the contrary, only the employees of the Dreaming sincerely wanted to help their master fight against the Furies. Pumpkin had interrupted the group who were practicing archery to deal with the Furies. Having only bows and arrows wasn't enough.
I suggest one of these. I call them the unkindly ones.
Just then, Nuala saw her brother riding over. Apparently, the Queen of Fairy had heard about the Furies and wanted Cluracan to recall Nuala. Although Nuala was reluctant to leave, Dream thought it would be safer for her to go. Unwilling to disobey the order, Nuala held back her tears and agreed. Before parting, Dream gave her a gift. If Nuala ever needed help, she could hold the gemstone and call out to him. As long as Dream wasn't dead, he would come. After the brother and sister left, Dream would also persuade others to take refuge in other realms, until Daniel took over here. But at this point, Puck took advantage of Lyta's absence for dinner, knocked out the housekeeper, and took Daniel away. There was another important reason why Nuala was willing to return to Fairy so easily. She wanted to bring an army back to the Dreaming, to fight alongside Dream. As soon as the Queen saw Nuala return, she couldn't help but ask her, "Did Dream mention me?" The Queen even wanted to take Nuala's gemstone. Even a blind person could tell that the Queen had a soft spot for Dream. Unluckily, Dream was at a low point in his life. It was rare for him to think of visiting his sister. Despair. After all, his current situation truly deserved the word despair. As they talked, Dream mentioned that he had found a successor. Upon hearing Daniel's name, Despair walked over to a mirror right away. This mirror could show those who were in despair in the human world, and at this point, the figure reflected in the mirror was none other than Lady Lyta. After Daniel's disappearance, she was devastated. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Loki and Puck came to the door, pretending to be police officers. Lyta immediately described what had happened to the two officers. A brief explanation is needed here. Lyta didn't recognize Puck because he had used a disguise when playing the role of the footman. Mortals couldn't see his true appearance. While Lyta was talking to Loki, Puck poured a lot of sand on the carpet. Then he pretended to be surprised, saying he had found a clue, and led Lyta to suspect that Dream had taken Daniel away. Dream saw this through the mirror, and decided to go to the human world to find Daniel, because he couldn't sense the other person from the dream. So he suspected that Daniel had been injected with a sedative, and couldn't fall asleep, even if this was a trap set by Loki. Dream had to make the trip, because the future of the realm was entrusted to this boy. Lucienne strongly disapproved of Dream taking the risk, because she had read in ancient books that, as long as members of the Endless were in their own realm, they wouldn't suffer any harm or disturbance. Even the Furies had to be cautious. Loki must be aware of this and deliberately lured you out. After all, once Dream dies, the agreement that restrains him will disappear. But Lucienne knew her master wouldn't back down. She could only suggest that he find a mortal agent to assist him. Dream did know a mortal as cunning as Loki and Puck. That person was the descendant of Lady Johanna. The two shared the same name and appearance. Dream wanted her to help find Daniel. He also pointed out that the kidnappers of the child were, on one hand, the Norse god of chaos and fire, and on the other, a fairy who escaped from Fairy. In return, Dream could give Johanna the handwritten diary of her ancestor. Johanna took on the task and started flipping through the notes. At night, Lyta dreamed of the Furies. The three reminded her, "You have already seen the people who took Daniel away, but they aren't as they appear. Daniel will be thrown into the fire." As soon as the words were spoken, Lyta woke up from her dream. The Furies' prophecy was very terrifying, but Puck had no intention of burning Daniel to death. He thought human babies were a bit like puppies, with eyes full of trust and love. As for Loki, he had no interest in children. To be precise, he had had 6 children. One was a giant serpent, one was an 8-legged horse, and another was a wolf. But Odin killed several of them. Only 2 children remained now. Loki wasn't close to them. He reminded Puck that Daniel was just a pawn in this game. Don't develop real feelings for him. When dawn fully broke, Johanna finished reading the Baroness's diary. Then she called Dream and headed to the crime scene. Although Dream knew that Lyta didn't want to see him, he still decided to go with her to protect Johanna's safety. When they arrived at the ancient building, Dream seemed to sense something, and walked straight towards the man lying in the bedroom. This man was Alex Burgess, the son of the estate owner Roderick Burgess. The father and son imprisoned Dream for a century, in order to gain wealth, power, and immortality. It wasn't until 1988 that Dream regained his freedom, and punished Alex with eternal sleep. When Lyta learned that Dream had appeared, she immediately demanded that he hand over Daniel, because Dream had previously said that he would take the child of the dreaming away sooner or later. Johanna quickly stepped between them and explained that someone else had taken Daniel. We are here to catch the culprit and return Daniel to you. Lyta reluctantly believed Johanna's words, and she warned Dream that if anything happened to Daniel, she would kill him with her own hands. Afterwards, Johanna advised Dream to apologize to Lyta and release Alex. Otherwise, any enemy who dislikes you could go to the Furies and plead, which would push you to your death even faster. At this point, Johanna suddenly realized something. Maybe Dream wasn't here to find Daniel at all. He insisted on leaving the safe dreaming, and coming to provoke those who already wanted his life. He wanted them to punish him, thereby atoning for Orpheus' death. Speechless, Johanna handed over the diary and asked Dream to read it from start to finish again. After reading it, you'll know that Orpheus never blamed you for what happened to him. If he were here, he would also tell you to go back to the dreaming immediately. As for Daniel's whereabouts, don't worry, Johanna promised to find him. After Dream left, he went to the cemetery to find Hob. Hob Gateling was a human with the ability to live forever. In 1389, he declared in a tavern that he was determined to live forever. Dream, who was nearby, heard this and made a bet with Death. No rational creature would desire immortality. To test the bet, Death granted Hob's wish and helped him achieve immortality, and Dream made an agreement with Hob to meet in the tavern every 100 years. He would ask Hob if he still wanted to go on living. In the centuries that followed, no matter what he went through, Hob firmly told Dream that he wanted to live. Over time, the two became very close friends. Dream didn't know how many years he would have to wait before he could come out again, after going back to his realm this time, so he specifically came to bid Hob farewell. Although the latter didn't know what trouble Dream had gotten himself into again, there was something he wanted to tell him. No matter what mistake you've made, or what you think you've made, maybe it's not too late to make amends. The conversations with the two mortals affected Dream to some extent. When he went back, he took back Alex's consciousness and finally set him free. Maguire burst into tears upon hearing the call of his loved one. On the other side, Puck's heart softened towards Daniel and he fled with the baby. Escaping Loki's control, he was about to take the baby back to Lyta. When Dream intercepted him halfway, Puck agreed to hand over Michael, but on the condition that Dream would no longer restrain Loki. With their agreement, the two reached an agreement. Puck was about to take the child back, when the Dream in front of him suddenly transformed into Loki. True to the god of mischief, he completely toyed with everyone, but Loki was pleased that Puck had pleaded on his behalf, so he agreed not to harm Daniel. But they still couldn't return the child. Puck believed him, but as soon as he returned to his residence, he was knocked unconscious by Loki. Loki then picked up Daniel and threw him into the flames of the fireplace. The next day, Loki contacted Lyta, regretfully informing her that they had found a burned body, which was highly likely to be Daniel. The housekeeper found it strange. The identification results hadn't come out yet, and the body was severely burned. How did this police officer know it was Daniel? Moreover, the officer didn't explain where the child was found. Loki lied, saying that the body and Daniel's shoes were found at a nearby campsite. That's why he went and guessed who the dead guy was all on his own. He comforted Lyta with a few words and turned to leave. The cautious housekeeper had to remind her mistress there was something wrong with what this police officer said. There were no campsites near the nursing home at all. But Lyta remembered the three goddesses' advice, and couldn't listen to the housekeeper's explanation. She just wanted to be alone for a while. At the same time, Dream awakened an old acquaintance.
Thank you, Lord. I await your command.
This person was named Cain, a nightmare created by Dream. He often wore sunglasses to hide the fact that he had no eyes. In the first season, Cain escaped from the dreaming. He became a serial killer, specializing in digging out victims' eyes to eat. Through this, he could see the other person's past and future. Dream once destroyed him because of his out-of-control behavior. Now, the reshaped Cain, although he had lost his previous memories, still remembered Lucienne and others. Because he contained scattered fragments of the previous Cain, Dream sent Cain to the human world, to assist Johanna in finding Daniel, and bring him back to the dreaming. But Johanna didn't trust the former perverted killer, so Dream gave her a hawk stone. This was one of the 12 artifacts, infused with the power of the Lord of Dreams. If Cain threatened Johanna's safety, this stone would grant her the power to completely destroy Cain. Johanna had no choice but to take on this mess. Now, Dream stayed in the realm and couldn't go out, so he can only wait. Honestly, for his death, Lucienne said that perhaps the remaining time was limited, but you could choose how to spend it. Instead of sitting here waiting for death, for example, there were a lot of things to solve in the dreaming. There was an ongoing dispute between the cloud riders and the politicians, which required someone to arbitrate, so Dream went to handle this matter right away. As for Delirium, who hadn't been seen for a long time, she had lost the puppy that destruction gave her. She went to ask Destiny about the dog's whereabouts. The latter told Delirium that she would find her dog in something else. Delirium couldn't understand her brother's riddle. She was hesitating whether to ask Dream to look for the puppy with her, so that he wouldn't keep thinking about the Furies. But when Destiny heard her thoughts, he actually split into two. One advised Delirium to go to Dream, and the other told her to solve it by herself. In the evening, Delirium entered the dreaming, and invited her brother to look for the puppy with her, but Dream said, "I can't leave the dreaming." Delirium inadvertently mentioned that she had seen two Destinies during the day. Upon hearing this, Dream's expression changed drastically. Delirium didn't understand what was so surprising about that. "I saw dozens of Destinies when I left," she said. "They walked in all directions, each muttering to themselves." Dream rarely smiled. If fate wasn't fixed, then the outcome was naturally not fixed either. He might not die because of the Furies. To thank his sister for bringing this good news, Dream gave her a little monster named Goldie, to accompany Delirium in searching for her beloved pet. On the other side, the housekeeper found it more and more suspicious, so she secretly followed Loki, but as a mere mortal, she was quickly discovered. Loki cast a spell, turning his cigarette into a pistol, and threatened the housekeeper to go into the back alley. He flicked the ash, igniting it, and watched as the housekeeper was burned to ashes. Then Loki went back to his residence, and took out the baby's bones from the ashes. He crushed the outer layer of ashes, revealing a baby with a fiery red body. Loki only replied, "In ancient Greece, the goddess Demeter placed the infant prince Demophon on the fire, to burn away his humanity and turn him into a god." Loki's act was to follow this example, turning Daniel into a genuine little Lord of Dreams. Now Lyta thought the Dream had killed Daniel. Loki believed that it wouldn't be long before she would pray to the Furies to kill Dream. At that time, Loki would also be able to gain his freedom. Meanwhile, Johanna was tracking down Loki's whereabouts. She struck a match and cast a locating spell, calling upon the spirits of those who had been tricked and burned to death by Loki. The flames on the ground immediately shot out, guiding the two forward. Little did they know that this spell had alarmed Odin. Johanna and Cain successfully found the burned housekeeper through the guidance of the fire. After all, the person was already dead and gone. Cain simply dug out the other's eyes and ate them to probe into the housekeeper's past. Using this method, Cain roughly determined Loki's residence, but there were rooms everywhere in the hotel. The two decided to search separately. Johanna soon found Puck drinking heavily at the bar. Before long, Cain also sat over. The two sat on either side of Puck, pretending to be a newly married couple. They said they were hesitating about having children. Upon hearing this, Puck indeed thought of Daniel, so he sighed, saying he also had a child not long ago. It was a pity that the custody was in the ex's hands. That person would stop at nothing and was full of lies.
And where are they?
Upstairs. We just split up. Wasn't love, if such a thing even exists.
Love exists.
And you learned all that from eating eyeballs.
It turns out that Puck knew the first Cain, so he guessed that the two were sent by Dream. He then handed over the room card. The heartbroken Lyta was woken up by a woman walking a dog. The woman explained, "I have come at the command of the three Furies. Although they can't bring back your son, they can punish the culprit." Upon hearing this, Lyta followed the dog-walking woman away. The two got into a dilapidated house. The dog-walking woman asked her to hand over a personal item. Lyta took out her lipstick. The latter took it and drew a protective circle on the ground. She said that this circle could fend off anyone who tried to harm Lyta. Lyta lay in the center of the protective circle, and her consciousness entered a barren land. She walked into the only house in the wilderness. The three Furies had been waiting for a long time. Lyta immediately begged them to kill Dream to avenge Daniel. The three goddesses explained that they could only fulfill the principle of blood for blood. Daniel wasn't of Dream's blood, but he did kill his own son.
So you'll kill him for me?
No, but if you let us, we can guide you.
Lyta was willing to undergo the transformation by the three goddesses, to send Dream to his death with her own hands. At the same time, Johanna and the other got into room 4059. When they opened the door, it turned out to be Dream. He told Cain that he had passed the test. Now he could return to the dreaming to receive his reward. Johanna reminded Cain that Loki was most skilled at shapeshifting and not to be tricked. Cain leaned close to Dream, carefully observed his eyes, and immediately realized it was a fake, so he grabbed Loki and refused to let go. In the nick of time, Odin and Thor arrived. The god of thunder picked up this unlucky brother, ready to lock him back in the underworld prison. Now only Johanna and Cain were left. The two disagreed on where Daniel should go. Although Johanna worked for Dream, she had promised Lyta to return the child to his mother. Cain observed the baby's eyes and bluntly said that he was no longer Daniel, not even a human. But if Johanna insisted on sending him back to Lyta, Cain wouldn't object.
You disobey Dream?
Yeah, if you think that's what's right.
The two developed feelings for each other during the investigation, but Johanna had no intention of enjoying love. In the end, she asked Cain to take Daniel back to the dreaming. In Fairy, Nuala wanted to ask the captain of the guard to send troops to the dreaming, but was refused. When she went back to find her brother, she found that Puck, who had been wandering outside for 300 years, had actually returned to Fairy. Puck knew that Nuala had originally been a servant in the dreaming. He kindly reminded her that Loki had played a trick to make Lyta misunderstand. Dream, your former master may soon lose his life. Upon hearing this, Nuala wanted to use the gemstone to warn Dream, but she found her neck was empty. It must have been stolen by the queen. Nuala was willing to give the gemstone to the queen, but the queen must allow her to go to the dreaming, to warn Dream that the Furies were coming. When the queen heard that Dream was in danger, she wanted to summon him immediately, but Nuala didn't want to force Dream to leave the dreaming at such a time. As soon as the words were spoken, the queen cast a summoning spell.
You do me a disservice, Nuala.
It was I who summoned you, Dream.
Apologies, my lord.
I am no longer your lord.
Nuala didn't have time to explain and quickly said, "The Furies are on their way to you." Dream was somewhat speechless. "I'm staying in the safest place. Did you pull me out of the dreaming now? Because you think I'm not dying fast enough?" At this point, Lyta followed the three sisters into the dreaming, because the Lord of Dreams wasn't present. The realm's power to protect its people was insufficient. So Lyta stabbed Dream's servant, Greenfield, to death with a sword. The vegetation in the dreaming quickly withered and died, gradually being shrouded in death. Lyta, having been controlled by the Furies, had completely lost her sanity and killed everyone she saw. Poor Abel became the second victim. Pumpkinhead stood in front of the four with a machine gun. Unluckily, mortal weapons were useless against gods. The bullets immediately bounced back and turned Pumpkinhead into a pulp. The Raven stumbled back to the castle to tell Lucian that the three Furies had arrived. Pumpkinhead had sacrificed himself. Cain, who had just returned, was somewhat confused. Aren't they unable to get into the dreaming? It seemed that Dream must have left the realm. Several servants looked at each other. No one knew where their master had gone. In Fairy, because the queen accidentally triggered the boon of the gemstone, Dream still owed Nuala a boon. Nuala wished for him to leave here and defend the dreaming, hoping that the two of them could reunite one day, but Dream felt that he would hardly survive to fulfill Nuala's wish of reunion.
If anyone can do the impossible, sire, it is you. Now go, please. That is my wish.
At this point, Lyta and her party arrived at the palace. Wyverns, griffins, and hippogriffs guarded the gate closely, but the Furies only needed one sentence to drain the griffins of their vitality. Luckily, Dream appeared in time to save the griffins. He told Lyta that she had been deceived. Those who used you had other motives. With that, he stepped aside, revealing Daniel in Cain's arms. Upon seeing her son, Lyta immediately regained her senses. The Furies quickly explained that part of Daniel was no longer in the world.
Time to open your eyes, Lyta Hall.
Seeing signs that Lyta was waking up, the three sisters quickly intensified their persuasion, urging Lyta to kill Dream. Otherwise he wouldn't let her son leave. Just as Lyta temporarily left the dreaming, Dream had already found where her real body was. Any threat to the dreaming must be wiped out. Given that Lyta had caused great damage to the realm, Dream planned to kill her. Although Lyta was sheltered by the protective circle at this point, Dream had ways to kill her without breaking the circle, but the words of the dog-walking woman changed Dream's mind.
But it wasn't her that put you in this mess, was it? You did this yourself. You took hers, didn't you?
Dream finally returned to the dreaming. He planned to confront the three sisters, to prevent them from harming others. Cain didn't understand what confront meant. Dream explained that he was going to the farthest edge of the dreaming. To protect everyone, Dream sent them to a safe place, but the raven Matthew was unwilling to leave. He knew that his master would probably never return this time. He was determined to accompany Dream for his final journey. The two came to the edge of the dreaming, and summoned the three sisters hiding in the dark. Death, having smelled the scent of finality, had already come to the dreaming to wait. The three furies were unwilling to attack Dream directly. They only controlled Lyta to destroy the dreaming. There was only one way for Dream to end this tragedy. He begged Matthew to invite Death to meet here. The meaning of meeting with Death was self-evident. Dream had to end his own life to dispel the furies, and protect the collapsing dreaming.
I'm tired, my sister.
The time has come, Dream Lord.
Just as Dream was about to take Death's hand, Nuala suddenly appeared in the nick of time, and cut off Lyta's head with a single strike. Lyta immediately woke up from the dream. Unluckily, Nuala was still one step too late. Dream's fingers touched Death's, and a dazzling light burst forth immediately. Goldie, whom he had created, vanished into thin air. Delirium was still confused when the puppy caught her scent, immediately broke free from the dog-walking woman, and ran back to Delirium. It explained that during the 2 weeks it had been lost, it was thanks to the old woman feeding it, otherwise it would have starved to death. Grateful that the dog-walking woman had saved the puppy, Delirium let her make a wish. Whether it was a palace, a golden finger, or a frog turned into a prince, Delirium could help make it come true.
It ain't safe to ask favours from your kind. I'm sorry about your brother.
Now Delirium knew why Goldie had disappeared. Because his creator had passed away, the dog-walking woman returned to her residence, and saw Lyta sitting on the bed, looking confused. The woman asked her, "Now that Dream is dead, you finally got what you wanted, aren't you happy?" But what Lyta wanted most was clearly to have Daniel back. At this point, the dreaming dispelled the haze and welcomed the sunrise. This meant that the Furies had finally left.
What about a dream? I am here, Corinthian.
Daniel had grown up overnight. Although the dreaming had a new master, Matthew refused to recognize Daniel's identity, and was determined to leave this place of sorrow. Nuala, but found this new dream lord somewhat strange. He returned the previous suite to Nuala for her to live in. The decorations and furnishings inside were exactly the same as before. Cain guessed that Daniel, like him, carried fragments of the previous holder within him. At this point, Cain took the contract he had signed with the previous dream lord to Daniel to seek justice. The power of attorney said that he was a member of a double act, but now that Abel was dead, the contract was meaningless, so he begged the Dream Lord to resurrect his brother. Daniel gently touched the hawk stone on his person, and Abel was reshaped from a pile of quicksand. The endless Dream Lord was comparable to a creator within the realm. Resurrecting a person was simply effortless. Then Lucian came to report a funeral would be held for Lord Orpheus next. According to the Book of Rites, the Endless would meet Daniel only after the funeral. He was a baby just yesterday, yet he has to take on so many things today. Daniel hoped that Lucian could guide him. It's a pity that the servants here gathered because of Orpheus. Once he died, that sense of cohesion naturally vanished. Lucian said that she would also leave the dreaming. After finding a suitable person to take her place, guests attending the funeral had arrived. Lucian and others went out to receive the guests. Daniel, having nothing to do, took out pumpkin seeds from the treasure chest. Then he used the power of the hawk stone to make it bloom and bear fruit quickly. Daniel carved facial features on the big pumpkin and placed it on a body made of straw.
Who the hell are you supposed to be?
I dream of the endless.
No shit. How did that happen?
Pumpkinhead returned to the banquet in confusion. Lucian and Nuala were very surprised to see him. "Weren't you dead?" Pumpkinhead explained that Lord had resurrected him. Lucian didn't know what Daniel was up to. Was he going to resurrect everyone? As soon as the words were spoken, Greenfield was also resurrected by Daniel. To be honest, he recalled these people only because he had no ideas in his head. Daniel didn't know how to be the Lord of Dreams, and thought that restoring everything was the best way. If his abilities weren't limited, he would even have wanted to bring Morpheus back to life. Unluckily, Greenfield was ungrateful. He bluntly said, "If you bring us back to life, then our deaths and lives will all be meaningless. Lord Morpheus died for love, for his son, for his kingdom, so that you could become the Dream Lord he couldn't be. If you bring him back to life, then his sacrifice and his story will become meaningless. Greenfield told this new master that he would gradually understand the meaning. Don't follow the shadow of the deceased. You can become the dream lord you want to be. At the same time, members of the Endless arrived, but destruction still didn't show up. Death personally covered the platform with a shroud. The outline of the deceased faintly appeared below. When the atmosphere was heavy, Lyta pushed the door and entered. Lucian sent someone to show her to her seat. Members of the Endless took turns to go on stage to mourn. After a while, destruction also came. He met Daniel at the door, and was going to have a chat with this new member. Destruction fully understood Daniel's confusion, and rarely acted as an elder brother to comfort him. Finally, Destruction told Daniel, if one day you feel that all this is unbearable, you can still leave all this behind, and come out to wander the stars with me. The world will still run without us gods. After saying that, Destruction left the dreaming without meeting his brothers and sisters. On the other side, the atmosphere of the funeral was very heavy, but if the Dream Lord could hear everyone's eulogies, he would definitely be very pleased. It turned out that so many people loved him. The stories about Sandman, Dream Lord, Lord of Dreams will be told forever. Morpheus will never be forgotten. He will achieve immortality in another way, overlooking this place he once loved. As soon as the funeral ended, Lyta went to see Daniel. Although she had caused serious damage to the dreaming, Daniel was full of compassion. He knew that this woman had lost her husband and son. She was only blinded by hatred to protect those she loved. So Daniel wouldn't punish Lyta, but only hoped that she would live a good life. After going back, if she missed her son, they could meet in dreams. Daniel was willing to be a support for her. From this, Lucian saw the difference between this new master. He was the first member of the Endless, who also had a mortal body. He was more humane than the cold gods. No wonder Morpheus chose him to inherit the dreaming. Daniel will definitely accomplish great things in the future. Now that the funeral was over, it was time for him to meet his family. Perhaps because the Endless had just experienced a loss, this time they changed their usual cold manner, and warmly welcomed Daniel. The story of this season ends here. The artistic level remains the same as before. Because of the special subject matter, it's different from other superhero works, and the whole film has a drama temperament. Dream Lord cut off Lucifer's wings, held up the head of his beloved son Orpheus, watched his siblings turn into stars in the dark night. This god, who was like an isolated island, gradually changed because of the people around him. If you open the book of Sandman, you will find it full of love and regret, responsibility and freedom. Those who like this kind of plot will definitely be satisfied. Those who don't like it will definitely find it incomprehensible. As the name of the play suggests, it makes people drowsy. But anyway, this season is the final season. Dream Lord's journey of redemption in search of love and growth has finally come to an end.